You're listening to the Scaling Culture podcast, where we sit down with thought leaders who share their experiences building incredible workplace cultures. Our guest today is Carlos Adame. We're so honored to welcome Carlos again to our podcast. Since his last time on the show, Carlos moved to Amazon. As a senior global HR leader at Amazon, Carlos is responsible for all strategic people planning and execution globally to optimize finance and Amazon performance. Prior to Amazon, he held HR executive roles at Providence and other well-known organizations such as UPS, Pacificare, United Healthcare, and Ultimed. On top of that, Carlos is an associate professor teaching graduate-level human resources courses at USC Bovard College. So in this episode of Scaling Culture, Ron and Carlos discuss Carlos's personal journey from Providence to Amazon, some ways Amazon uses data science to get closer to the customer and to their internal staff, a new exciting initiative of Amazon's with far-reaching impact to rural communities, speed, innovation, and systems to allow people to prioritize the most important thing, and leadership communication, best practices when navigating through tough times. This episode was sponsored by Empyrean, a top-tier HR technology company that empowers organizations to build a better culture by connecting employees to meaningful, life-enriching benefits. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to another episode of the Scaling Culture podcast. I'm your host, Ron Lovett, and today, very excited. I was just saying this is the first time we've had a guest come back, and we couldn't have had a better individual to come back than Carlos Adame. Carlos, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Ron. It is great to be back. I had such a fun time last time. Looking forward to this chat.
Yeah, me too. And I want to kick things off. You went from Providence as a senior HR leader there to senior global HR leader at Amazon, big company. But I want to rewind because when we spoke last, you were beaming with energy. I'm going to have to say, like, you loved what you did. You really loved it. And so I was curious when I saw on LinkedIn you made the move. I made my own story up of why you made the move, but I wanted to talk to you about that and what prompted you to make a move, because I felt that you were in a place that I don't know. I don't know if I've seen a happier person in their work environment. So yeah, tell us, give us a story.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron. And yeah, I was with Providence for almost 4 years and absolutely loved it there. I think that passion for the mission and what we do in healthcare was evident and still resides in my heart. A couple of things happened, interesting enough, to cause me to consider going to Amazon. Two of my former colleagues reached out to me and said, "Hey, Carlos, we have this unique opportunity partnering with the finance leadership at Amazon, second largest company in the world, and we need you." Is basically the recruiting pitch. We need your passion, your compassion, your leadership, your innovation to really come help us get to the next level. And I turned them down quite candidly. I said, I'm happy here. I'm doing great work. Healthcare, I think, as you know, the last few years, and I've been in it for over a decade, has gotten really tough. And there's
tougher, more the
burnout on top
Yeah.
of burnout, and
Yeah.
people are leaving the industry. And I think they came back and said, "Hey, I'll make you a deal. If you just talk to our head of HR and you're not interested, we'll leave you alone. But at least just listen." How many times do you get an opportunity to work with people you know and respect and care for, and to run HR for the second largest company in the world? So I did. I thought about it and went and was really intrigued at what an amazing organization Amazon is. And I looked at the last 10 years of my career staring at me, and I thought, I want to see if I can scale and really bring an impact on not just the 1.6 million employees we have, the $500 billion in revenue and growing very fast, but to be able to take everything I had learned, not just at Providence, but before, and really apply it for good. Good in the workplace, good to customers. Most people know Amazon because they buy things on it, but there really are a lot of other projects that Amazon leads and does and innovates on. And I thought I may not get another opportunity to do this type of work at the scale. So that's why I'm here.
Perfect sense. And so you were looking to scale up and take on a new challenge. Good for you. Because I think there's something to be said for those who are really passionate about what they do and want to continue to grow in the space,
Yeah.
And it also sounds like you entered Providence in a place where it was a tough space, fine, but great culture. And so you're
Yeah.
entering a place that says, look, now I'm going to be involved in whether it's culture transformation, new initiative, but really pushing things out. That's an exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah, I still am in close contact with many of my Providence colleagues, and has been tough for them as it has for all of healthcare for myriad reasons. COVID just being the cherry on top that really shifted the model. And I will say Providence did some of the probably most transformative HR work during that initial period when all businesses were trying to figure out how their new model would work, and people management and practices that had been in place for a long time that needed to change on a dime, sending tens of thousands of people home, changing healthcare and childcare options. Yeah, it was invigorating. Coming here, it's just a different issue to solve, and I think economically, as you know, not just in North America but across the world, there's headwinds that are real. And so we're ahead of the curve. And I think great cultures, I was reading your new book, Scaling Culture. Congratulations, by the way. Haven't finished it, but it's a great start to the book. Talks about how culture really can or does drive organizational performance. And those companies that have strong culture are able to weather anything. We doubled in size in 24 months at Amazon. And it was already a very large company, if you can even fathom that. And Amazon does things differently. I remember my first meeting when I got here, and I attended the meeting, and a document was shared. And we spent the first 20 minutes of the meeting reading the document that somebody had put together and done research and data and had a recommendation. And so I have never been in a meeting in my entire professional career where the first 20 minutes we spent reading a document that somebody had probably spent months creating and collaborating with to make a proposal. But what I learned was there's an incredible power in putting your thoughts down in paper. We're all familiar with PowerPoint presentations, and you could only say so much on the real estate of a deck. This was much, much more detailed with why are you recommending this? What are the alternatives? How do you know this data is valid, et cetera, et cetera. And it was fascinating how the operating mechanisms that we have for the business, not just people related, but the whole business, is very different than anything I've experienced, but it's also led to our success. Amazon's still a relatively young company. I think, I came from Providence, 170-year-old company.
Right.
And Amazon, at a quarter of a century plus, is already the second biggest organization in the world. So there's something to be said for a culture that works and drives performance. I think you wrote in your book about your experiences with your companies. Yeah, it's quirky. It's different. I can give you many more examples.
But I want to go back to that conversation because it sounds like you were trying to ensure that your beliefs were aligned. And so it's like, okay, look, it's okay that you have problems, but I just want to know my belief system is that you need to, that culture is critically important. Bringing the best out in people is critically important. I have to make sure that we believe the same thing, and then I can help you execute on the belief. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting. I think what you mentioned at the top of the intro was my passion for the values and the way Providence operated. There was a new leadership principle that came out in the last few years at Amazon, because Amazon absolutely is the most customer obsessed company. I mean, every conversation which starts, how does this benefit the customer? And so you would think there should be as much emphasis placed on the people that drive, that delivery and innovation on behalf of our customers. Well, striving to be the Earth's best employer was a new leadership principle that was implemented a couple of years ago. And it's pretty fascinating. I want you to read that. I'm going to read the definition to you, because this, Please. To me, is why I get up and come to work here every day. It says, leaders work every day to create a safer, more productive, higher performing, more diverse, and more just work environment. They lead with empathy, have fun at work, and make it easy for others to have fun. Leaders ask themselves, are my fellow employees growing? Are they empowered? Are they ready for what's next? Leaders have a vision for and commit to their employees' personal success, whether that be at Amazon or elsewhere.
Wow.
And
Very
so,
thoughtful.
I can get up and go work hard to achieve that.
Great
And
recipe.
it's aspirational, absolutely, but it really codified the importance of the 1.6 million people we have that bring Amazon to life. And, we can talk more about that, but that's one of those, that's when I knew it was aligned to my personal values.
I love that. And I really think that I was listening. I was trying to poke holes in what you were actually reading. I'm like, there's got to be a gap. And as it kind of, I feel like it checked all the boxes. It really checked learning, diversity, growth, empathy. It just seemed it was obviously well thought out. That's great. I'm really happy to hear that. So tell me about your onboarding there. And specifically, Carlos, I'm curious because as I've started to onboard key members of our team, in a perfect world, people that are strategic thinkers in the business, I don't want them touching the business when they come in. I want them to absorb things. And we would be a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of where Amazon is, and it's still complex. I worry that, a leader comes in and starts getting involved in the day-to-day, playing catch up, and then they never get that. They're challenged with understanding the whole company, so then they can be strategic about decisions. What was your onboarding like, and where did you live there? Were you able to? Did you have to dive right in because of the growth? Like I was curious.
So you hit on something that's super important for every company, not just yours, not just Amazon, is to allow a new leader to learn the culture, to learn the values, to learn how the business runs, to build relationships. I will tell you, my leader and my business partner, Tim, both said, Carlos, give yourself 6 months to learn your job. Now, I'm a fully seasoned HR veteran, but how it's accomplished, learning the culture, building relationships, understanding how the business operates. It's a business like any other, but it's incredibly complex given its scale. And even more so important, they said, give yourself another year, another 6 months, 6 months to learn your job, another 6 months to learn how to do it really well. So think about the mental model of giving me a year to really get up to speed and be high performing. That is an incredibly generous time, because I know many companies, you have to just jump in and old leader's gone and you have to start doing things. And did I have to start doing things first month? Absolutely. Their business was still running. But I had a colleague who was filling in for me until I got here that stayed with me through that first quarter and just said, hey, let me continue to do it. When you're ready to jump in, or if you want to jump in, feel free to facilitate one of these sessions. And we have a concept called Day One Manager Orientation. I can go into more detail, where we lay out specifically the roadmap of learning for new leaders, whether it be online, asynchronous learning, watching videos, learning about culture, all of the key people that they should meet. And in fact, many of those meetings were already scheduled for me when I got here, both HR side, business side, other COEs, and my team, obviously. And so that intentionality to lay it out, to have it measured. And by the way, we have data scientists in HR. We have a 30,000 person HR organization, if you can imagine that really think through these things and design them. And so there's a cadence of day one things you should do to get up to running. Week one that you just need to know, and then month one, month two, month three, and so on and so on. Fascinating onboard. And all I would say is, for any of your listeners, be intentional about giving your new leader space to learn. It doesn't have to be exactly what I'm describing, but if you said it earlier, if a leader has to just jump in and start working, they're already behind. They're going to miss key things that will help them be effective, either internally or externally. And so that little investment of time and space is so key to, I think, a leader's long-term success.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a specific example. We had someone come on the finance side, and that's exactly what happened. They had to jump in. I still feel I still feel wrong about that. I still feel that we need to have that person be able to get to a place where they can pause. And even though we didn't do it right away, the business, wasn't set up properly to do it, we still need to give them some breathing space to sit back and look more broadly. What's so your time at Amazon has been how long now?
I've been here 11 months. So
11
coming
months,
up
right?
on my year anniversary.
What's the biggest thing you learned that you didn't know coming from Providence? Not about the business mechanics, but just about HR, and what's a new skill that you've picked up since you've been there as you've sat back and said, okay, this is very different?
Well, I think there's two things that come to mind. One is the scale of operations. I've run HR for some pretty big organizations, but nothing of this type. And so being able to manage HR in a business across the globe, we're in 39 different countries. It's just incredibly complex. And the second thing I would say is the science behind people. I was blown away at how much data we have available to analyze, to draw insights, to make recommendations. Even better, it's not available just at my fingertips, but our leaders' fingertips. We have an organizational health review dashboard, which they can see all their key metrics. They can see, obviously, if there's attrition. They can see everything, our key strategic goals and how we're progressing, and they can click down by their own organization even further down. It is fascinating. And then the last thing I would say, what I've learned is the incredible amount of time that is spent on people-related issues like talent reviews and succession planning and promotions is off the charts. And I thought I had good processes in prior organizations. These are top 0.1%. And it leads to better decisions and it leads to better outcomes on people matters. I just have never seen such a priority placed on it. And again, these are meetings facilitated by me, designed by me in partnership with the business, but run by the business, which is fascinating, that they own it, which they should. And so I think my learning was there's a whole nother gear that can be achieved with time and effort and resources. Obviously, it's a big company, so we can afford to have more resources. But it's the placing HR and people-related issues on par with business and financial issues. It is unprecedented.
It's interesting. You mentioned about the vast kind of HR team, and we had a senior leader from Uber on not too long ago, and that was the first time I've talked to someone that had data analysts, HR data analysts, right? And that analyze data around efficiency of meeting and how many people should be in a meeting. And I was like, holy cow. It feels like I haven't heard larger corps that are in, more traditional industries having data analysts in the HR space. Have you? Is this the first time you've seen this with Amazon?
No, I've had data analysts before, but it's really what they do and it's their importance. You could have a junior level analyst that pulls reports and, maybe creates them or creates a deck for you to use. That's one level of analysis. The more what you're talking about and what I'm used to, and Gary Rousseau, who, if you ever got a chance to get him on your podcast, would be fantastic. He's one of the leading data scientists. He's at Providence, and he is way above and beyond anything I've ever, just in terms of insight and fun and partnership and thinking through how to construct, the analysis of data, how to present data, what does it mean? So I have had good analysis, but this is an entirely different scale. If you think about reactive ad hoc reporting to insights, to predictive analytics, at that top where you're looking around the corner and ahead and drawing conclusions, even more so having automated mechanisms so that it's not manually you and me looking at spreadsheets and, doing that, or even in a database, but that it actually creates the visual and the insights that can be analyzed by HR people and business leaders is beyond anything I've ever had. So I think more big companies have analysis and analysts done in HR because the people insights sometimes falls behind the financial insights or the operational insights. And what I would just say is the science behind it is really what's intriguing. And then we have programmers, software design engineers that work in HR, if you can imagine that literally take a problem that we have and a solution that's brought up and say, how do we scale that for this entire organization? Let's build a model and test it so that we don't have to keep creating reports. A leader can hit a button and the report is there in the way they need it at the time they need it. It's next level.
Wow.
Remember the days when company culture was defined by how many foosball tables and weekly happy hours there were? Today, employees expect more. That's why Empyrean empowers organizations to build a better culture by connecting employees to meaningful, life-enriching benefits. Benefits that allow your employees to be their best selves, both in and outside the workplace. Is your benefits function positively impacting company culture? Take Empyrean's online benefits maturity assessment to see how you measure up and where you can take a more strategic approach. A better workplace culture starts with benefits. So visit goempyrean.com to take the assessment and start building a better culture through benefits that actually matter. Empyrean, where real benefits live.
And tell me about Amazon's view as you're inside the business now in centralization versus decentralization, because I think about this all the time and I feel like that's a complex thing that continues to come up. In my real estate company, I think about, in a perfect world, I want basically most things to be decentralized with support, check and balance, guidance, and accountability from a centralized, the strategies, or the main system to come from a central hub. How does Amazon view that? And you also shift back and forth. I'm curious what that looks like.
Yeah. So we have a saying that it's always day one at Amazon. And what that means is we maniacally work to stay fresh and to innovate. And I agree with you, to be mostly decentralized, because that's where the work happens. That's where the customers are at. That's where the problems can be solved. There needs to be some scale to centralize a few things, but we'd rather err on individual teams working to solve an issue that may be the same issue that another teams, and maybe they come together, maybe they don't. But if you start creating these behemoth centralized functions, boy, things grind to a halt, and committees and reviews. We have a bias for action, like time, you need to move and with speed. And we talk about one-way door decisions and two-way door decisions. Most of our decisions are two-way. You can back up and redo it and change, and we learned and we can do it. We really are cautious on one-way door, where if you're changing it, you're going to change the customer experience for, our many billions of customers, or you're going to change the culture or something, right? There's going to be some financial impact, but those are far and few between. Most of those two-way decisions, make it, learn from it. If it doesn't work out, great. How do you apply it and move forward? And that speed, I think, is what's allowed a company of our size to still be nimble and innovative and bring products to life very fast. Where I think other companies of our size might be bogged down, to your point, in process and protocol and mechanisms that don't allow for that. And we're vigilant not to have that.
And tell me about the org design, because this is also something, as that I'm constantly going back, 6 months, yearly. Is this working? Does this make sense? It's top of mind right now. What is the organizational structure? Is it flat? Is it hierarchy? Like, you give us a glimpse inside. What's it look like? And does it change all the time?
It is super flat. And yes, it changes all the time. There are 12 levels from the CEO to the lowest grade level and person in the company. And some of those levels aren't even used. So it's actually less than that. So if you think of 1.6 million people compressed into, 10-ish levels of organization, it is incredibly flat. And that's so that everybody stays close to the customer, as you can imagine. It changes all the time. News about closing down investments. I mean, that's one thing I will give Amazon credit. We see an opportunity, we go for it. We invest the resources and time, and when we think it's not working, we shut it down and we move on and we learn from it. Sometimes it comes back in a different form. So how we're structured really is along customer lines. So we have stores, which most people are familiar with, Amazon.com, and there's physical stores that we have, obviously Whole Foods and others. There's Amazon Web Service, largest web hosting company in the world, probably be a Fortune 50 by itself. And we have devices, we have Prime, we have, so on and so on. Kuiper, which is a satellite division to bring internet to places in the world that don't have it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, there's a lot of things that Amazon does that people don't know about. To your earlier point about not a lot of information, and that's okay. When it's close to launching, it will bring parity and equality to other parts of the world that don't have it right now. That's pretty cool.
And I was also curious you talked about, how close Amazon is to the customer. And I've heard stories about in the boardroom, there's always an extra seat for the customer. And look, I agree. I mean, I use Amazon so much that my wife's trying to get me barred from it. She doesn't like that.
You and me
2 a.m. Yeah, that's right. I'm like, what can I buy at 2 a.m. when I woke up? It's like really not good. So, but it's interesting because, and I'm going to give a quick shout out. Evan Jones is our contact with Amazon, works at Toronto. He's been fantastic, but it's the first time and that's on the business side, but on the personal side, like I feel, and maybe I'm wrong and just don't understand how the platform works in some cases, but it's not like there's a 1-800 number to call. There's not like the chat bot. And so it's great on the customer. How are you guys figuring it out? Because it seems like there's also hey, this is how we do business. And it doesn't have the traditional access to customer service, but it's going great on the customer side. How's that all working? It's almost confusing to me.
Yeah, so I think so. It's interesting. We one of our leadership principles is customer obsession, and I think that's why we're successful. Like leaders start with the customer and work backwards. And so we've spent a lot of time speaking with customers, analyzing what they need. That's why the site, just to give one example, is so intuitive. It's easy. There's recommendations that make sense to you. It's super easy to return something. You click a button, there's a label, and you can just drop it off anywhere. You don't even, so it's all starting with what does a customer need? What will make it most simple and easy? And think about the time savings of packages getting to customers, right? It used to be, it's a week, it's a month, it could be a couple months. And now, most people expect 2-day delivery with Amazon Prime. They're like, I can't wait 3 days or 5 days. Like what? So it changed the whole industry model. But also the cost savings of reducing shipping costs and reducing the cost of items because we have scale. But also the time spent looking for things. If you think about that, whatever you purchased last at 2 a.m., first of all, you couldn't have gone down to the store probably to get it because it would have been closed. You would have had to drive and park and go spend your time and then analyze and then go back and come back versus being able to hit a click of a button and then move on with your life. That cost savings and time savings, and there was an analysis done, is really in the trillions of dollars. And people don't think about that right. In terms of impact to society, social good. And it's fascinating. And so, yes, it's not a traditional model where you call someone or you chat with someone. Most of it is done online, but that's how people want it. I think about banking back in the day when you went to a bank and opened a checking account and savings and deposited checks and withdrew money and transferred things, where now you do it at 2 a.m. on your phone, right? You just do everything. You increase credit line. Shopping should be that easy.
No, I agree. And it's almost insulting when someone has to go to the store to buy something that they could just order on Amazon. Now it's like insulting. But like this came up in our business, and I'm constantly reminding our teammates, let's not think we're smarter than we are, which is being in the boardroom pretending we're the customer. We're not the customer, and so we're really working with our net promoters to get feedback from them, and that's going quite well. I assume that Amazon has these incredible focus groups.
Yeah,
you do. Okay.
Yeah, so we have many mechanisms to talk to customers. In fact, we will deep dive. Let me take one step back. We're talking about culture. Many of these leadership principles have a natural tension. We want leaders to think big and to really be innovative and not think small, because that's self-fulfilling prophecy, but also to dive deep. And to your point about, you could look at metrics and say, okay, on average, 99.4%, satisfied or this or that. But the anecdotes, the focus groups, the conversations are super insightful. You may think you're really great at all this thing, and then you have this customer story of the impact that they had or on them. And spending time understanding that. I was in a 2-hour meeting with our senior leadership team in finance and myself, going deep on an issue for a customer. This happened to do with accounts payable and accounts receivable, all the way down to the invoices, the communication, the timing. And the reason we did that, and you'd think that's an expensive meeting to be down in the weeds, is to teach the entire organization, the entire leadership principle to not take these things for granted, to your earlier point, that not think, hey, everything's wonderful and smells great. There are problems. Go down, understand what they are. And then there's action items taken off and there's a follow-up. Absolutely fascinating. So we do the same thing with customers where we will have focus groups and other types of contacts, and we take those seriously. We don't just say, oh, that's just Ron, he just had a bad experience. No, we will literally digest that and understand it. And if there's something that we can fix, it could have just been an error, but it could have been something systemic. In fact, that deep dive that I mentioned, we found something that was a flaw in the cycle. The right people weren't reviewing the decision making at the right time. Boom, we got it. We're like, okay, we're done. Like that will help a tiny percentage, but on the scale that we have, it's a big thing. So we will always obsess over that, Ron, not only existing customers, but future customers. Like the think tank here is amazing to think about things that customers may not even know or think about right now until they're launched.
So I envision two things, Carlos, when you're saying one, I envisioned a massive whiteboard that had like a lot of drawings and pieces going to pieces. That's the only way I could ever figure that out. So maybe that's wrong. I don't know, but I assume you have some big whiteboards over there.
We do.
And
we do.
Second,
yeah.
Right. The second thing is, as you go down this cycle of problem and some rabbit hole, you must be like, oh, we need Tim or Mary in here because that touches, like, boom, zoom them in or get them in here, because like people must be pulled into conversations all the time because of the flatness, actually, and saying we need some expertise because now we hit something we don't know what we're talking about. Boom, we need to collaborate with, like, I envision this kind of chaotic but fun, fast moving, problem solving environment.
All of that is true. I just got looped into a meeting yesterday. They needed my insight and they pinged me, can you join us for 5 minutes? We just need your thought on this one thing. Boom, joined, made the decision, and we moved on with life.
Love that. So I want to point that out because I think that it's critical. You think about very successful companies and their usage and discipline of time. It's not like what Carlos just said. It was, I'm not in here for an hour. I came in for 5 minutes to help solve or socialize this one idea, collaborate around it, and then I'm out. More people need to adapt that, even us. I mean, this is just that's incredible.
Well, to your point about do people get called into those deep dives? Absolutely. Although it's a fairly large meeting, because what we do, Ron, is we think about everybody that touches this issue. And it could be finance, it could be HR, it could be communications, it could be a programmer that, designed the system. We get them in the room so that they're all hearing it, they're connecting the dots, and then we all go back and do our job. But I think prioritization is done at an amazing level here at Amazon. All businesses talk about prioritization, work on your most important things. We are maniacal about that. Only focus on the most important things. I mean, I got a lot of great ideas that I can bring, Ron. I'm sticking to my core that's driving performance here. And these other things, maybe someday they'll come along and we'll review them when it's appropriate. But there's
extremely disciplined.
You have to be disciplined.
I read a lot about Jim Collins, talks about the Amazon flywheel and multiple flywheels within the business. Is that something that just Jim Collins talks about, or is that introduced to you at Amazon or in a different way? But it sounds that was the I loved it about, if you do this right, this hits this nugget that had, there's these 5 key levers that if you do them right, then it's rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Yeah. So it is a real thing. I don't think we use that term specifically. I think it's more of a Jim Collins term, but the model is right, that if you get these levers moving in the right direction and at the right speed, and it takes a long time. And that's the one thing I admire Amazon. We're willing to be in it for the long term. And not just be looked at the quarterly, earnings, to really invest because it will pay off. And so, yes, if you get those businesses and they're interconnected, if you think about Amazon Prime, that leads to, Amazon stores, that leads to Amazon video, and so on. They're all interconnected. It's an ecosphere. And so when they're all humming, they help each other out, ultimately helping the customer out, that you don't have to go to a bunch of different places to transact business. You can do it all in one place. So yes, the theory is right and it does work. And sometimes those flywheels slow down and sometimes you need to replace them. The concept is right.
Well, Carlos, what last thing? What's keeping you up at night now? What's the next 6 months of where are you digging your teeth into? What are the current challenges other than like that outside of obviously making some big decisions on the people side of the business? What else is going on?
Yeah, I think two things keep me up at night. One is the economic uncertainty. We all know that we're leading towards tough times. We just don't know, is this a recession? Is it a depression? Is this a slowdown? And then we pick back up. It's that uncertainty. So being able to model out and prepare for any of that. And I think what I like about Amazon is we're way ahead of that with multiple models and different decisions. And then the second is keeping the workforce engaged and happy. I mean, we have single digit regretted attrition, which is fantastic. It's probably one of the best in our industry, but even that is a big number to me. So retaining our top talent, all our talent, but in particular our top talent, those are the two things that keep me up at night. And I'll be leading an initiative with many other people to look at that, address that, and see what can be done. So I think being able to respond to whatever comes our way, and then being able to keep our talent is really my priority heading into 23.
Well, you've got your plate full, my friend, and good for you. I'm proud of you of taking this incredible opportunity on, and it sounds like things are going great, and you're learning a ton and drinking from a fire hose and punching above your belt. So good for you, Carlos. That's excellent. Well, thanks again for joining. I'm very thankful that you came back to the show again. You're our second guest that came back, and so that's a new start for us. This is good.
Well, thank you, Ron. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and keep doing the good work that you're doing. And I wish you well, and we'll stay in touch.
For more information about Carlos and his work, please follow him on LinkedIn. To learn more about our books or our Scaling Culture Masterclass, which is a 6-hour series on how to build and sustain a resilient, high-performing team, please go to scalingculture.org. And to learn more about sponsor of this episode, Empyrean, please go to goempyrean.com, GOEMPYREAN.com. And lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a comment and share the podcast with one of your friends or colleagues. We'll be back soon with another incredible guest.